This is the Classic Auto Mall Show. Broadcast from the studios inside the Classic Auto Mall in Morgantown, Pennsylvania. Just 1 hour west of Philadelphia at Pennsylvania Turnpike exit 298. Featuring nearly 1,000 classic, vintage, and barn find vehicles for sale under one climate-controlled roof. Now, here's your host, Classic Auto Mall president and the man with all the toys, Stewart Howden.
And welcome. Show number 201. We missed show number 200, the milestone show, because it was 4th of July, wasn't it?
Yes.
I'm still calling it 200. So there.
Okay, there you have it. So show 201. Gosh, it's the middle of July. The year's over half over. It's hard to believe. We got an auction coming up in 2 months.
Can't wait.
September the 19th at 11 a.m. here at Classic Auto Mall. We're going to auction off close to 100 barn finds and clean out the cupboards and whatever else you want to call them of cars and stuff that we have.
All details at classicautomall.com.
Yes, please visit the website and see what we've got. And quickly, before we get to our guest, how many cars in inventory right now, JR?
I'm going to say 903.
He didn't go over, so he wins because you've already cheated.
I recuse myself.
920 we have right now. So
Okay.
So it's actually we're gaining back a little bit of ground. I think at one time, I don't remember what was our most we ever really
like
truly had.
1150
or something. So
Yeah, I got a little crowded.
got a little bit crowded.
Couldn't move around.
Yes, sometimes less is more or something.
That's right.
Anyway, let's get straight to our guest. Joining us live from, I'm assuming, North Carolina.
No.
No. Where are you?
Boothbay Harbor, Maine. I'm looking at the ocean. Somewhere over there is England.
That's it. Mic drop. We're done.
Strike one.
Well, strike one. Well, that's, I do my homework here, so I don't get anything wrong here. And so up in Maine, and this is a perfect time of year to be in Maine, right?
We came up here on our honeymoon, 49 years ago, and just never stopped coming back. And then we had a house that it came on the market, and we bought it. And so now we come here in May and leave in October. And when I go shoot barn find episodes, instead of flying out of Charlotte, I just fly out of Portland.
Right, exactly. So on said honeymoon, was that in the Ford Pinto, I believe?
Yeah, I think it was.
I read that somewhere.
It was.
I think I read that somewhere.
Yeah.
For those of you,
I had a beat up old 510 that I don't think we want to take it on our honeymoon. But we took my wife's Pinto. Yeah.
Oh yeah, the 510, as we called it a couple of weeks ago, beautifully ugly. We all love that car, and we all think it's the sexiest thing ever. And if anybody outside of the racing world looks at it, they go, "What are you talking about? How can that car be cool?" But it is, for whatever reason. I do too. Tom has written, how many books are you up to now? 20?
I'm on my 18th right
18. Now. Wow. Man,
I'm beginning to write my 18th right now.
Gotcha.
17 are out.
Can you reveal what the subject is yet, or is it too early to?
No, it's fine. Yeah, I did a Barn Find Hunter episode earlier this year that we found a 289 Cobra in a storage building in Charlotte, on a road that 200,000 cars pass every day, and it's been sitting in this little concrete bunker for 43 years. And I knew about it, but nobody else knew about it. And finally, I was able to buy it. My friend Jim Maxwell and I bought it together.
Right.
And so we're going to restore that car. It's in the process of right now getting some aluminum work done, and then we're going to be hands-on. So I'm going to call this book, I think I'm going to call it The Last Barn Find Cobra. Whether it is, and I'm not sure, but it's going to be about finding this car, revealing it on the show, restoring it, and hopefully it'll end up on the lawn at Amelia Island.
Sure.
But then there'll be all sorts of Cobra stories interwoven into the story about, the Cobra Daytona coupe that is now in the Simeone Museum.
Yeah, great car.
That sat in a storage building in California.
Sure.
All those Cobra stories that have been kicking around for years. I'm going to try to bring them all together as sidebars here and there throughout the book.
Sure. Any rough idea how many unaccounted for Cobras are out there?
I don't know. It's really a mixed up ball of wax because there were 998 built and there are more than that now. There's a bad habit of people, having, I don't know if they still do it, but in the wild and crazy 70s and 80s, if a Cobra disappeared for 10 or 15 or 20 years, it must have been written off. We'll just build it and claim the number. And then those two would meet one day. Who's got the real car?
Yeah, exactly. That's, of course, nobody thought that we'd have the technology that we have today, the ability to track things like we can. And, but, I mean, obviously DNA doesn't work with cars. I don't think there's aluminum DNA, right? Is there? Am I missing something? Maybe there is. But, the fascinating thing about it is that at one point in time, any of these old cars like the Cobras or the GT40s were kind of hard to even sell. People didn't really want them too much.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I told you I'm in Maine. I could spend the rest of my life hunting cars in Maine, never leave this state. You brought up a GT40. I was wearing, a hat that said downstairs.
Right.
A Lime Rock hat. And it said Lime Rock Park. And a guy behind me at my favorite coffee shop, just 2 miles from here. You race at Lime Rock? Yeah, I race at Lime Rock. I used to race at Lime Rock. And we go sit down and have our coffee and our scone. And we became friends within a couple of minutes. And then he said, I got to go. I got to go to work. He said, but there's an old guy out on River Road with a GT40. What? Radar.
Ding, ding.
So I drove out there. He told me where it was. I drove out there with my brand new F-150 and I looked up and it's a long driveway. Couldn't see the house. I said, I'm coming back tomorrow. So I went home, The next day I went back with my Cunningham and I drove up the long driveway and parked in front of the house. And there was a sign on the door that said, do not knock, please call. I said, oh, crap. And I looked at my phone and there was no cell phone coverage. All right, so I took the phone number down. And just as I'm getting ready to leave, a woman comes to the door. What kind of car is that? I said, well, that's a 1952 Cunningham. Oh. She said, I've never heard of that, but my husband certainly has. I said, well, bring him on out. She said, well, man, he's in a wheelchair. He can't. But why don't you come on in? And that began a friendship.
Right.
That, until he passed away last fall. And he told me about, he bought this 1966 Mark I GT40
wow.
from Herb Wetson in 1973 for $22,000 and still had it. And a garage full of a barn, literally, oh my God, a barn full of
right.
the sportiest cars of their era. So that GT40 is now, was just purchased and is sitting in a collection in Greenville, South Carolina. Hopefully not to be restored.
Hopefully not, yeah.
That's fire wheels, Weber's 289, scraped paint here and there. Leave it, please.
Right. Please. Well, it's like anything, like the Cobra Daytona at the Simeone. I mean, it's just perfect in the condition that it's in. Yet, there are cars that you find that are in parts that do need to be restored, that should be restored, right? It's hard to make that decision, right?
Yeah, I've come to the conclusion as I get older that not everything old needs to look new. And all you have to do is see some of these women that get Botox injections to say, oh, God, no. So, sometimes old things need to look old. And, it's actually, my Cobra, the car I drive, I bring it to a show, it's got dents and scrapes here and there or whatever. Or my Cunningham, or, I had this really famous Ford Country Squire with a 4-speed and a 428 factory car. It had surface rust. Those are the cars that gets people's attention and imagination. Wow. So I really do enjoy driving cars that are like an old pair of jeans.
Sure. Well,
if you get a scrape, no big deal.
No big deal. I love the fact that you drove the Cunningham to the GT40 place, because the one business card that you could present to a guy who's a car guy is a Cunningham. I mean, he's not going to say, well, I'm not going to see him. If you drove up in the F-150, he'd probably say, well, that guy's just some guy. But you drive up in a Cunningham, it's going to get somebody's attention.
And
it's you see these Cobras found. It's funny you mentioned the station wagon. I had made note of that thing. The 428 4-speed bucket seat console Country Squire station wagon. How more badass does it get than that?
And it's a great story. I give these presentations now and then, and that's one of the cars I present. A guy. It was coming up on Christmas, like the week before Christmas, 1966. The 67 Fords had been introduced a couple of months earlier. And this guy, the family needed a car, and all his friends are buying GTOs and Roadrunners and Chevelles. And his wife said, we need a station wagon. Don't you come home with a muscle car. So he went to the Ford dealership, and pled his case. I got three sons. We go camping. I got to do that. Can you put, and I was a Ford dealer back. I was a Ford salesman back in the day before computers, and like they had lined up. Okay, you can get a 390,
right?
Or you can get a 428, but not in a wagon.
Right.
You can get a 4-speed, but it had to be in a sedan, and you can get a 3 on the tree, 289 with a 3 on the tree in a wagon. They just didn't line up.
Right.
But like every Ford dealer, they want to sell the last car before Christmas because nobody's buying cars, and a bunch of salesmen sitting around looking at each other. And so they ran it up the chain, and an aggressive young sales guy in Dearborn named Lee Iacocca said, "Hell yes, we'll build it." And they built the one of one.
Wow.
And this guy got his muscle car, and he got a station wagon. And so I had that car for a few years. I found it in Michigan.
Right.
And I sold a few cars during COVID, and that was one I sold to a guy that is so enthusiastic about it. He lives in New Jersey, and he took care of all the little things I never got around to, getting the electric tailgate working, and all the little crappy things. And he said, "Look, this is my car, but you can use it anytime you want if you want to take it on." And he's been to Amelia Island, and he's been to Hilton Head, and suddenly he's a hero. It's like it's a blast.
Well, it proves exactly what we want to happen with these cars, is that we are stewards of these cars, and how cool you got to see it go to the right guy. We don't always get to see that. Sometimes we're long gone before it goes to the right guy, and how cool that you saw that it went to the guy who really appreciated it. But there's a lot of guys. I would imagine that if you put that car out on the open market today, it'd probably bring a pretty penny, I would imagine, with the car in the Providence.
I put it on the market in 2020, and I actually, I got good money for a Ford wagon.
Sure.
I actually had more money into it than I got. But whatever it is, whatever. Back when COVID, if you remember, the whole world didn't know what was going to happen. So I said, I guess I got most of my money back after.
Yeah. Well, I think we were all concerned. I mean, we were concerned here. We laid off a bunch of people and we locked the doors and then realized quickly that the phone was still ringing. So we were still doing business, and trucking companies were still working because they were considered essential. And so we were able to sell cars. Now our consignment inventory went, significantly down, exponentially down, but we made it through, and that's what we did. But we weren't sure. I mean, who would have thought in a pandemic that the classic car business, sales business, would have survived? And I would have bet you every penny I had. Thank God I didn't. That it wouldn't have lasted. So. I love that you live part of the time near one of my favorite places in the world, and that's East Tennessee in the Smoky Mountains, and specifically the Tail of the Dragon. That is such a place to go. Have you got to spend any time up there?
Oh yeah, my friend Jim Maxwell, we're like Cobra buddies.
Right.
We put on a Cobra tour every year for the last 20 years, and they've been, all over the Southeast, Northeast, Midwest, and upper Midwest, Montana, Wyoming. Mm-hmm. But, we have done more than our share of that section of the country because, he lives in Greensboro, I live in Charlotte.
Right.
And actually, I've fallen in love with the Cherahela Skyway more than the Tail of the Dragon. But the Tail of the Dragon is an effort. And you have to really steer that wheel and downshift the brake. And, for the 13 miles or whatever, it's cool. But the Cherahela Skyway, you can get on it and just drive beautiful, scenic, windy roads for an hour and a half, 2 hours. It's
not quite as much work. And I think that same with like the Blue Ridge Parkway, and same with the Natchez Parkway that's out of Nashville area. Those are all great drives. There's a lot of great drives down in that part of the world. People don't always realize, but I think more and more are starting to realize with the internet and everything. That I act like the internet was invented yesterday. Right. But sometimes I feel like that. But I think that those type of things are bucket list things for a lot of guys to be able to go and experience their car at a place like that, and no different too, like with country club racetracks. I mean, what a wonderful thing! Now cars that you would never get to explore their top end of their power, you can do that on a closed course, safer environment than obviously being on the highway. Yep.
I'm not a country club guy. I need to race.
Right.
And like driving fast on a track for me, all right, it's cool. Yeah. But I really want somebody in front of me, behind me, next to me. And I don't care where I finish. I'm really unusual for a race driver. I will soon have gotten my driver's racing license 50 years ago. In a couple of years,
Wow.
It was 1979 at Bridgehampton in my 510.
Right.
And I don't need to win. I don't. If I'm racing hard for 13th place, I'm racing hard. And It doesn't matter, because in vintage racing, there's no prize money, there's no trophies. It's people.
Yeah. It's amazing to see some of these cars in the vintage racing, and these guys going wheel to wheel in Ferrari GTOs and, 1950s and 60s Maseratis and, just really going after it, not letting up too much. I mean, obviously they're probably a little bit cautious, I guess, but maybe not. Everything's fixable, right?
Yeah. So I think a lot of people, like, they see me at the racetrack at Lime Rock or some VIR, and are you the Tom Cotter, like, from Barn Find Hunter? Yeah. I think they think I just do that all the time. That's just like one of my automotive passion is hunting, rusty and dusty cars. Right. But like I'm reading, I'm watching Formula One on Sunday mornings, and I'm reading all the magazines, and I'm like, that's all I do.
It's all consuming.
So, I'm the same guy. And, I spent 25 years in auto racing. I mean, people don't know that, but I sold an agency in 2000. Right. And people say, are you related to the Tom Cotter that was involved in NASCAR and Formula One? Yeah, I'm the same guy.
That's me. Yeah, you were a graduate of the Humpy Wheeler School of Promotion, right? He was the king of promotion, wasn't he? He at the time and the day. Good Lord. Yeah,
he was kind of I always had like crazy ideas, but you're afraid to vocalize them, because that person will think I'm nuts. But once you work for Humpy, there's nothing too crazy, and like. He gave me the fertilizer to grow. Sure. And it was an amazing time.
Yeah, to watch what happened with NASCAR during that era was pretty amazing. I mean, it became a huge thing, and it was, of course, you watch a Formula One race now versus a NASCAR race. They're two different animals. They're yes, they both have engines and four wheels and tires, but beyond that, can you imagine a Formula One race ending with 30 cars all dicing for the finish line with 2 laps to go?
No, I can't.
Yeah, it would be. We've always said it'd be interesting to see if Formula One came over here and ran Daytona or Indianapolis, the proper Indianapolis, not the road course that they did for a number of years. Be interesting to see how that would turn out.
Yep. So there's officially nobody in NASCAR that knows me anymore. When I got out of the business in the early 2000s, Jeff Gordon retired, Jimmy Johnson retired. They all retired. But, I mean, I got involved in it in 1982. Right. And so I was involved for almost 30 years. Right. And, I was Tim Richmond, Cale Yarborough, Bobby Allison, Dale Earnhardt, Donnie Allison, Neil Bonnet. Those were the guys that I worked with.
Sure.
And those are the days when if I needed a quote for a press release, there was no cell phones. Right. And I would call Dale Earnhardt's office, and at the end of his day practicing in Michigan or whatever, he'd call me at home. My wife and I'd be out working in my MGTD in the driveway, and Dale's on the phone, and I'd run in there and he'd give me a quote. All right, thanks. And he went out to dinner, and I finished my press release. Right. They don't do that anymore.
Yeah, it doesn't happen like that anymore, right? And what's interesting, what you just said about being so immersed in the sport, and then it's like you knock on the door and somebody opens the door and you have no idea who they are. It's like everything is completely changed, and there's, NASCAR is so different today than it was, even 15 years ago, much less. And now,
I think money became very important to NASCAR.
Sure. Well,
and that's too bad.
Yeah.
They became a money machine, and they forgot about what people are attracted to.
Right, right. It's you watch some of the analogies of the difference between open wheel racing and NASCAR racing. With you can't rub tires like you can in NASCAR. You can't do all those things that maybe us as purists don't love, but the general public seems to really dig that, and that's their thing.
Hey, so when are we going to start talking about barn finds?
Well, that's here, right? Yeah, that's why you're here. You've written a few books on barn finds, I understand, as well too. I did watch some of most of the video of the 289 Cobra that you found recently, and CSX 2429 was
29.
it? Yeah,
429th Cobra built. Yes.
And I was like you when you found that little baggie with a string around it, and thought it might be a bag of hash.
Not that I know anything about that.
No, me neither. And it was this perfectly preserved little bag of screws and fasteners and nuts. You just kept opening up Pandora. I mean, a treasure trove of stuff, and everything that you found everything that you'd want to find if you found a barn find that was in not completed form.
And that was the day we took it out of there. But then for me as a researcher and a historian, it's the paperwork. And we had little pieces of paper that tied this to that. But we went back and we knew who the second owner was. We knew who the third owner was. We knew who the fourth owner was, who had recently died. But the second and third owner still are living right now in Minneapolis. But nobody knew who the first owner is. If you go through the Cobra register, it lists everything about every Cobra ever built, as much as it's publicly available. But there was no known owner. We knew the dealership, Glen Organ Ford in Compton, California, but we did not know who it was. But the second owner told me, I flew out from Minneapolis and I bought it. I landed in LAX, and the guy picked me up, and he was, kind of a long-haired surfer dude that was barefoot, driving a car barefoot. And so a friend of mine, John Stein, is a writer he lives in Santa Barbara. He had recently done a story about Dennis Wilson and how when Dennis Wilson divorced his first wife, Dennis Wilson from the Beach Boys,
right?
Divorced his first wife. He gave her a 365 Ferrari in the divorce, and then he went out and bought a 275 GTB. But it told about some of the cars they had and whatever. He said to me, and he responded to my Facebook post about the car. Like a long-haired surfer dude, barefoot. That had to have been Dennis.
That was him.
He talked to Carol, and Carol said, "Yeah, Dennis had a Cobra." But anyway, after 2 months of chasing that rabbit, it turned out no, it was not Dennis's car. He had a 289, he had a 427, but they were yellow. Our car was only British Racing Green.
Right.
But it was so much fun because I talked to Dean Torrance from Jan and Dean, and he said, "Yeah, Dennis and I used to race on Mulholland Drive. I had my Stingray and whatever, but it wasn't. But man, it was so much fun. But we actually did find the owner, who just passed away in January. I talked to his daughter, and that's all going to be in the book.
Sure.
So that research was just so much fun because we were getting, and I had people helping me, copies of the New York Times classified section, the LA Times. We were reverse engineering. We found the car, and there was a phone number, but we had to reverse engineer the phone number to give us the name and address of the person. And
wow.
we went to the Library of Congress, and it was like this stealthy kind of thing going on, and I just dig the heck out of it.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun when you open up the trunk or open up a box, and there's a whole bunch of papers and stuff, and the parts are great. And I know you had figured that there was a replacement gauge, a couple of replacement gauges because they were white, not yellow, and then you were able to find those in the boxes as well too, which is that's great. I mean, it's a fantastic find. It's as good as it gets, right?
As good as it gets.
Is there one that eludes you? Is there one that's out there that you know about that you hadn't been able to get, or you hadn't been able to prove that it exists, or about all of them?
No, I don't know all of them. I'm told there are a few others, and I've seen pictures of others. But I don't just look for Cobras.
Well, right.
When I open a garage door on an episode, it is what it is.
Right.
Like I see some remnants in a guy's yard that he's into old cars. I don't post on Facebook. What do you got? American Pickers is famous for that.
Sure. American
Pickers is coming to Charlotte. Show us what you got. People send pictures, and everything's negotiated well ahead of Mike getting them.
Right.
So I don't want to become that. So what I do is I do it the old-fashioned way. I'll land in a place like St. George, Utah. Mm-hmm. My Woody will have been shipped it out there.
Right.
And it'll be waiting for me at a storage facility. And I'll land, get in the Woody with my camera guys, and we'll just drive around. And there's a Volkswagen Squareback on the driver. Let's talk to him.
Sure.
And he'll, there's a guy on the other side of town. And before you know it, you've filled up 5 days worth of great content.
Right.
So I like to do it the old fashioned. This is what I started doing when I was 12 years old.
Right.
So this is not a new thing for me.
Yeah, you got a little history doing it too. I think that it's really interesting that it's not always about value with these old cars. It's sometimes just about the story and the history and the interesting parts of it. And it wasn't just, oh, this one's worth $1 million or this one's worth $5 million. It could be worth $5,000, but still have a great story and be fascinating to hear about.
Yeah, I don't buy the cars I find very often. Like the wagon I bought and the guy with the GT40 who's 10 miles from here, he passed away. He passed away in September. His wife passed away in October.
Right.
So now his niece called me and said, would you help me? The house, they were hoarders. I wound up buying 6 more cars out of that collection.
Right.
Literally right now, I've helped the niece fill up 9 dumpsters of crap just so I could unearth the cars that I bought. So think about this. The guy had a GT40, kind of one of the ultimate cars ever built for sporting. He had a 48 MGTC that his father bought new, and in between a GMC Cyclone pickup, a 930 Porsche Turbo, a 66 Corvette, an Indian motorcycle, and I'm probably and a Lotus Elan. He had like significant cars during every era of sports cars. And, one car, the TC he inherited, that was part of his life since he was born.
Right.
So it is the human interest story. Cars are just sheet metal and aluminum and rubber and whatever they are. But the human interest story is what makes your wife want to watch my program. Because
exactly.
You don't have to be a car enthusiast to enjoy that story.
We have that exact same thing happen here where people say, a lady will say, I don't want to go through, I'm not into cars. Well, you don't have to be into cars. You have to be into history and remembering and all of that, because what happens is that every car that somebody sees that's from the 60s, there's always something, a trigger. There's always somebody had one, you knew somebody with one, your granddad had one, all of that. And they're part of the family, these cars. I mean, it's an emotional time. I know that you see this. We sell a lot of estates here at Classic Auto Mall, and it's very emotional. And the whole family comes out, and when we sell it, they bring the title and they will go and get their picture made with it for one last time. I mean, that's how integral it was. And as you said, just sheet metal, screws and tires and rubber and whatever it is, but it becomes not an inanimate object.
Now, it's exactly it. My books and my video series, Barn Find Hunter, are human interest stories. We just happen to use cars as a catalyst to bring those stories to life. Sure,
I mean that's the way to put it is so well put. And some of the other books you've done, not just about barn finds. I mean, you've done books about Tommy Ivo, TV Tommy Ivo, and Holman-Moody, and Dean Jeffries, the hot rod guy. I mean, just a lot of fun subjects, and in varying degrees of things. How did you get into doing things that weren't just the barn find thing? You just needed some diversion, or?
Well, I did. Before I had this conversation with my publisher about barn finds, and he said, I think there's a book there.
Right.
I said, I don't know if anybody's interested. And I said, look, if you'll take a chance on writing the book, I'll take a chance on publishing it. And that was called The Cobra in the Barn.
Right.
And sold, for a car book, it sold, I think, 75,000 copies. Like, wow, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
But before that, I had written these other books, Holman-Moody, because why? Well, I moved from New York to North Carolina, and I happened to be driving around the airport one day, new to town. I see this old crappy building, weeds growing up, a huge building, some factory. And then I see in the back a big old gas tank above the ground. It's white, and I could barely read competition proven.
Oh, that was their slogan.
Crap, that's Holman-Moody.
Yeah.
It took me a couple of years to put that book together. But I did. And because I was interested in it. Why did I write a book about Tommy Ivo? Because as a kid reading Hot Rod magazine, there were these guys with greasy hands, hair. And then there was this guy with, blonde hair and a white T-shirt and a big smile. I said, I like that guy.
Yeah.
And these bitchin' 4-motor dragsters and stuff. And it's like, I got to meet this guy. And nobody had ever done a book about him. So
wow.
After I had done the Dean Jeffries book, I was doing a book signing at the NHRA Museum in Pomona. And Bruce Meyer, big collector in California, said, what are you going to do next? And I was sitting right next to Tommy Ivo's Model T, nailhead Buick Model T hot rod. I said, I'd like to do a book about this guy. And he said, I can make that happen.
Wow.
Bada boom, bada boom.
Right.
And, Tommy and I are still, pen pals. So Tommy sleeps all day and is awake all night. That's the way he is. He wakes up when the sun goes down, and he goes to sleep when the sun comes up. But I visited him a lot during the course of the book. Sure. And go to Cackle Fest with him and all that stuff. But I'm in North Carolina. If I got up early and he was up late, I could interview him on the phone about things before he went to sleep after I woke up. Right. So it really worked out great.
Yeah, the divide of the country worked out well for you, right? Well, his smile was infectious, and he always looked like he was about 14 years old. He never looked like he aged at all. But, I tell you what was just as cool as the 4-engine dragsters was the rigs that he used to haul them around in with the glass sides, and they were as custom as the cars.
Yeah, and the one with the glass sides, it hold 2 dragsters, one forward, one backward. And then they put a Corvette on the roof, and that would be his runaround car. And he went through, he was going to New York National Dragway on Long Island, and he was going through the Lincoln Tunnel. And let's say the Lincoln Tunnel was 14 and a half feet high, and his top of his Corvette was 14, feet 2 inches. He told his pit guy, you drive the truck, I'm going to go over the Corvette, this is going to be the thrill of my life. And he took the T-tops off this Corvette, and it was missing the top by 2 inches, like crazy.
Oh, that's wonderful. I love stuff like that. It's every time you go through an airport in a pickup truck and you're in the parking garage, you have that same sensation. It's like it's going to take the top of your head off, right? A master showman. I mean, just like Humpy Wheeler, Tommy Ivo was the same kind of deal. And Dean Jeffries, I mean, what a career he had. A hot rod builder. You did a book about him. Pinstripe James Dean's helmet and the Spider's number on it and Little Bastard on the side of James Dean's Porsche. That doesn't get any more iconic. And
he half thought about going to the track with him on that fateful day.
Yeah. How about
he had
that?
Some other job to get out. You look at pictures. He had lots of pictures of his life, his career, and I was able to have access to them. But Steve McQueen would drop by during lunch hour. The Monkees, he drove the Baja 1000 with Mike Nesbitt in one of the Bruce Myers came out with the Myers Manx.
Yeah.
Well, he came out with the Coyote, and they entered the Coyote 001 in the Baja 1000. He and Mike Nesbitt did the Baja 1000.
That's crazy.
These guys were hanging around. Paul Newman would walk in. Just amazing. And it was no big deal. He was up the street from Warner Brothers in Hollywood. And, they were a lot of car guys.
Yeah, all of them were car guys, right? Just about.
So I couldn't talk to Steve McQueen because he was deceased and those guys, but I got to meet the guy that was friends with them.
Yeah. And sometimes those are even better stories, believe it or not. Sometimes that can be the better perspective of it. And, I read somewhere that you said that you don't get a lot of leads on barn finds, generally speaking, from the obvious. Somebody sends you an email, somebody responds to a story you're in, that kind of thing. Because most barn finds that you find, right, honestly, are no keys, no title, doesn't run, doesn't drive, there maybe an engine's missing. I mean, sometimes, but you have to go every one that you hear about almost, or at least have to at least think about it, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. You don't know what it's like when you open the door of the barn or garage or walk in the backyard. I mean, the term barn find has become a generic term for just a neglected car. But you have to be respectful, and there's so many times I meet somebody, and maybe he got a Z28 Camaro when he graduated high school. And he drove for a few years and he did all the day 2 stuff, put big wheels on. And then he parked it. And it's in the driveway. And you go, hey, I drive up in my Woody wagon, so I'm seen as an authentic car guy. Right. If I drove up in a new Suburban, it wouldn't be the same.
Gives you credibility.
Suddenly, he wants to talk to me as much as I want to talk to him. Sure. And so, what are you going to do with that Camaro? I'm going to fix it up. And in my mind, I'm saying, you let it rot for 40 years in your driveway. The floor pans, the rocker panel, everything is rotted. And now you're going to think about restoring it. Yeah, and it's never going to happen. Never. But I can't say that. I have to be respectful to the guy. And I hope viewers acknowledge that I know the difference.
Right.
But I'm not going to say it because I'm not going to embarrass this person.
Sure.
He's got a story to tell, and that's it. And it's his car. He can do what he wants with it.
We've all been in situations where you hear a guy talking about something about a car, and he's completely wrong, but you can't say anything, because if you do, then you just become that guy. And nobody wants to be that guy. Everybody we want this hobby to perpetuate. We don't want to drive one person away from it, because we need all the people to continue this. Otherwise, we'll have Duesenberg sitting in driveways with the floorboards rotting out. Let's hope not. Let's pray not.
I have this theory, though, that, car guys are all friends. Some of us just haven't met yet.
Right.
I can meet somebody who is restoring an MGB in the driveway, and I drive up in my Cobra, and within 3 minutes, we've connected.
Yeah, exactly.
I remember, I bring my Cobra up to Maine in the summer, and I'll tell my wife Sunday morning, all right, let's take off. I'll see you at dinner time. I'll just take off, driving.
Love it.
Here on the side of the road there's a Corvair convertible, a first gen Corvair convertible that's just rotted to the bones.
Right.
But it's got a for sale sign on it. I pull over and look at it, right? And the owner comes out of the house. Can I help you? I said, I'm just looking at your Corvair. He said, you drove that car here and parked it to look at that? Yeah, I did.
Yeah. It's hard to fathom. And I would imagine a lot of people would mistake your car for a replica because they don't see many driven on the street. It's not like you're going to pass. 99% of the ones you pass down on the highway are a replica.
998 real Cobras were built.
Right.
And 60,000 replicas.
Yeah, you do the math. It's not hard. It's funny you're talking about the Cobra. The SAC puts out Shelby American Automobile Club puts out the Cobra guide, and you talk about a rabbit hole. If you open that thing up and start looking for something, and then before you know it, an hour's gone, and you're looking at. Oh my God, the history on some of those cars is absolutely amazing. It's fun to read about them, even if you've had no prior knowledge to them at all.
And there are the Cobra I bought, the last owner of it, he bought it in 1979, I think, or 80. He was still listed as the owner. I mean, if somebody had, done research, they could have tracked this guy down. Now, he was not, his phone number was unlisted. He was not talking to people, whatever. But there are you could mine that book for gems that are still sitting in longtime owners' garages.
I 100% agree with that. You see that almost on every page. There's something that says there's some blank there, no matter what that is. And it's interesting to if you really spent the time and effort. It's like everything. I got a stack of magazines that's this tall that I still haven't gotten to. There's only so many hours in the day, and you can't read everything that you want to read, but you sure can try.
Hey, before we run out of time, I just want to shout out to my favorite college, McPherson College in Kansas.
Yes.
And I'm on the board there, and I'm super excited about it. And, if we're worried about where our hobby is going with the next generation, it's coming out of that school.
Absolutely.
And so I just, if your viewers don't know anything about it, just Google McPherson College. They offer a bachelor's degree, 4-year education in automotive restoration. And I just wanted to make that clear.
Oh, absolutely.
Off the air.
Yeah, we had Brian, who was
Martin.
Brian Martin on the show about 6 months ago or so. He was on. He was great. He was really great, and that's such a wonderful thing. It's like you said. It should it should be mentioned every opportunity that any of us in the car hobby get to mention it, because that's how important it is to what we're doing, and especially for these old cars that there may not be certain parts. You got to have a guy who can fabricate. We just lost Gene. We didn't just lose, but we lost Gene Winfield, the metal shaper of all metal shapers. I mean, that has to continue on. You can't go to the grave with all that information. It's got to be transferred to hopefully somebody like these guys.
Yep.
So,
and how?
And my favorite question is always, what's your daily driver? But I think I know the answer. The Woody, the Cobra, and the F-150?
Daily driver. Well, daily driver is not the Cobra.
Right.
I drive it a lot. I got to say, it's probably the most driven Cobra in the world.
I love that.
But F-150. When I'm in North Carolina, I have a cool BMW 3 Series wagon with a 6-speed manual.
Nice.
With a raspy little exhaust.
Nice.
And then in Maine here, we have a Miata, a 90 Miata. And one of the cars I bought out of this collection 10 miles from here is an MGTC that the guys father bought new.
Sure.
And I'm going to keep that as my main bum around the coast car.
I love it. Well, go have a lobster roll sandwich for me and enjoy it. Tom Cotter, everybody, thank you so much for being on the show today. We look forward to your next book and your barn finds, and keep us posted and come visit us next time you're down in southeast Pennsylvania.
Whether you want to buy or sell a classic, collectible, or special interest vehicle, you need to visit the Classic Auto Mall website for more information. If you're looking to buy, you can easily search our inventory of more than 1,000 vehicles on the web at classicautomall.com.
And we're back with the Classic Auto Mall Show, Classic Auto Mall Studio, Morgantown, Pennsylvania. Just read today being July the 9th, 2025, Christian Horner got sacked at Red Bull, the team principal at Red Bull Racing, after 20 years of being the head. The youngest team principal in the history of Formula One at 31 years old. Yeah, you know nothing about what I'm talking about, do you?
Are we talking about cars?
It's like broadcasting. You're not a pro until you've been fired at least once.
At least once, yeah. I got fired once. That wasn't very fun.
Well, that was a great interview. Tom's
great.
great. I'm a big fan of his stuff, too.
What a great gig.
Talk about it.
Yeah. First of all, you get the leads, it's like the Glenn Gary, Glenn Ross.
It's like
leads.
Wayne Carini. Gets all the good leads.
You get all the good leads, and it's all cool barn find stuff. And I imagine that a lot of it is, going down rabbit holes that don't really pay off or whatever. But like he said, it doesn't really matter if it's something that you want or don't want. It's the part of the story and the history of it and the way it happens and that reveal there that where the camera first hits the garage door going up, and there it is.
It's the thrill of the hunt.
Yeah, exactly, and so cool. So, and thank you to all of our subscribers on YouTube. 42,900, probably 43,000 now as we speak.
Nice.
It's going up really amazingly well. And our last video with Bobby Rahal is over 10,000 views.
Another great interview.
Yeah,
be sure to subscribe.
Yeah, get a chance to subscribe because help us get to 50,000. And then when we get to 50,000, we're going to ask you to help us to get to 75,000. When we get to 75,000, we're probably going to ask you to help us.
We want our plaque. We want our plaque.
What's the
100,000?
And coming soon, the Classic Auto Mall app. Which you'll be able to load on your phone or your computer and instantly go to YouTube and watch or just listen while you drive.
How cool is that? Tom Cotter was talking about Botox and people that should be left alone. Did anybody see Bill Ward from Black Sabbath, the drummer?
No.
Oh my God, he didn't have his shirt on, and he's in his 70s, and
it looked every bit of it.
It looked it was real. There wasn't any glamour shot going on there. Ozzy did apparently a pretty good job. I haven't seen it yet. So, new arrivals. We have. How about the 2002 Pontiac Firebird Trans Am WS6 convertible, black and silver over ebony and silver. One owner, 87,000 actual miles. So this guy drove it, but kept it garaged. 5.7 liter, 360 horse LS1. I think we only made 217 of these
in this spec.
In this spec. So if you get a chance, check that out. How about the 1999 Mercedes-Benz SL 500 Roadster, smoke silver over tan, great color combination on these. And nothing says you made it more than an SL Mercedes. That was always the dream car to say, I made it. I've done well. I've bought my wife or myself an SL Mercedes, and
you pull it in the driveway and you get a little.
Ooh.
Yeah, yes, you hope from the neighbors. So this one's got 48,000 actual miles on it. It's basically three cars in one.
Is it?
It's a convertible. It's a convertible with a top down.
Yeah.
It's a hard top convertible, or it's a soft top convertible.
Not a 4x4.
Not a 4x4. No, there's none of that. So
it's a good car, and these drive great.
Oh
these
my God,
are really good.
And this one was garage kept as well. So next, the new arrivals is the 1969 Chrysler Newport two-door hardtop crimson over saddle.
Cool.
57,000 actual miles. Numbers matching 383 cubic inch V8. Numbers matching A727 pork flight? They don't make a pork flight.
pork flight?
I don't think they made a pork flight. I'm quite certain it was torque flight. It's got the broadcast sheet and very nicely preserved.
But before you buy it, measure your garage.
That's right. Actually, thank you. 219 inches.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Not as long as an Electra Buick, but
Electra's what, 222?
225.
Deuce and a quarter.
Deuce and a quarter. That's right. That's why they called it the
225.
The Electra 225.
Right. You're
right?
testing me. I got it.
I am absolutely testing you. How about other new arrival, the 09 Jaguar XK Coupe? Nothing sexier than an XK Coupe. They are really sexy.
Pamela Anderson back in the day was...
She was pretty sexy. This is lunar gray metallic over charcoal black. 48,000 actual miles, 4.2-liter double overhead cam V8, 6-speed automatic, nicely maintained. This is a great cruising, affordable classic, if you will. They were expensive new. They weren't cheap. I imagine this car, 2009, were probably $70,000.
That's right.
And new, and not that much today. So, other new arrival is the 1958 Packard Hawk Sport Hardtop, Snow White and Wild Gold Metallic. Wild Gold. Jesus, I need to quit. White Gold Metallic.
That's some more Coke.
Over
Cola.
10, one of less than 600 built. These had the supercharged 289 cubic inch V8. That was a lot of fun car to drive. Still is a lot of fun.
Now, is that the smaller one that became the Studebaker Hawk, or is this a big Packard?
This one was the Studebaker Hawk that became the Packard Hawk. So it was the reverse of it. Studebaker was first, and then it morphed into when Packard bought Studebaker, and then the Hawk became the Packard Hawk.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so there you go. Power brakes and steering, Flight-O-Matic transmission, and a very interesting looking car. It gets a lot of eyeball on it because a lot of people have never seen one. Again, only 600 of these built. So
it's pretty rare, and it has that different front end than the Golden Hawk. It's really interesting.
It's more of a catfish look.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like a catfish.
Right. And last but not least, the 1968 Oldsmobile 442 convertible, provincial white over blue, beautifully restored, numbers matching rebuilt 400 cubic inch V8, numbers matching turbo hydromatic 400 automatic transmission. It's got a newer power top. This thing is really a nice, smooth driving car. It's if you've never driven a late 60s Pontiac or Oldsmobile or Buick, you'll be surprised how well they drive. Even in the muscle car variants, they drove. They really did. And conversely, when you drove any of the Mopar products from the late 60s, early 70s, they didn't drive as well. They were a little harsher. And then they had a distinctive starter sound. It sounded like it was tearing up, but it wasn't. It had a real weird line to it.
They do. You can't go wrong with a 442.
No, you cannot. So big buzz this week is the F1 movie, F1 The Movie. We saw it at the IMAX.
Okay.
It was... Here's the thing. The movie's supposed to start at 2:15. Why don't you start the the previews at about 2, and then maybe you run until about 2:20 or 2:25.
Yes.
At 2:15, when the movie's supposed to start, 30 minutes more of commercials.
Oh, it's unbelievable. It's so frustrating.
Somebody sued some of the theaters for saying they have to put in an actual start time.
Yeah, when does it really start so I can show up at the normal time? And you have reserved seating now.
Yes.
If you buy ahead. And we saw it at IMAX. Now, here's the problem with it, at the IMAX particularly, is that all the previews have this bang, boom, crash, and it's loud.
Yeah.
I mean, it's loud.
It's louder than the movie itself.
It's louder than the movie itself. And the problem is when you finally get to the movie, you've had just about enough of that loudness of stuff that you don't care about, waiting for something that you do care about.
And visual overload, too.
Yeah, it's a little bit, I wasn't sure that I was going to be able to enjoy it at the IMAX because it was, when watching the previews, it was hard to focus. Once the movie started, you forgot about that. It just was great. And it, by the way, great movie. There were some Hollywood liberties taken. There certainly was, it's not perfect, but it can't be. If you're going to make it interesting to the masses, to people that aren't purists like me and love Formula One and watch it every week, regardless of what time it starts in the crack of dawn, it's one of those things that they have to take some liberties because they have to make it interesting because otherwise the $200 million budget will never be recouped. Recouped? Is that a word?
And my wife's not sold on going, so I'm thinking of going to the late show one of these nights. So last night I looked, and the late show started at 10:30, and I got to be at the Auto Mall in the morning. That's going to get over at 1 a.m. I don't think I'm going to do that one. So tomorrow an earlier one starts.
What are you talking about? You're a night owl. I get emails from you at 1 o'clock in the morning. Hey, Steve, check this out.
What are you doing right now?
Yeah,
mowing the yard.
Call me.
Call me.
Yeah, but then I would come home and have to do all those emails at before a.m. then.
Well, boo-hoo to all of us, right?
First world problem.
Yeah, we have such problems.
Bottom line, on a 1 to 10?
I give it a strong 8.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah, it wasn't perfect.
How about compared to, as far as the story, with Ford versus Ferrari?
I think I know the story of Formula One today in today's world better than I knew the story of Ford versus Ferrari back in the day. So I didn't really have a reference point. I think as far as story goes, it seemed pretty true to to the sport and to the hobby. There was a couple of things that were a little overdone. One of the crashes was a little bit crazy that probably wouldn't happen today. But other than that, I think it was really done, and it was probably truer to the script or to the script of life than Ford versus Ferrari was.
Cool.
So anyway, where did we sell these cars these past 2 weeks?
Where?
You ask? How about Chester Springs, Pennsylvania, Hanover, Massachusetts, New Cumberland, Pennsylvania, Greensboro, Pennsylvania, Quakertown, Pennsylvania, Coatesville, Pennsylvania, Chadds Ford, Pennsylvania, Albuquerque, New Mexico, Lansdale, Pennsylvania, York, Pennsylvania, Camp Connell, California, River Hill, Wisconsin, Mancos, Colorado, Eagle, Idaho, Starkville, Mississippi, Fort Erie, Ontario, Canada, Central Falls, Rhode Island, New South Wales, Australia, Avon, Indiana, Newtown Square, Pennsylvania, Malvern, Pennsylvania, Redline, Pennsylvania, Chaudront, Choudront, Choudrant, Louisiana.
We can't help you, sorry.
Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Lake Stevens, Washington, and Wommeldorf, Pennsylvania. Ta-da! Not a bad week. 2 weeks.
12 states. No, 13 states and 2 other countries.
And if you count
Canada.
As another country?
Yeah.
Well, Fort Erie, right across the river, across the Peace Bridge from Buffalo.
Exactly. When we return, we will continue the show, the Classic Auto Mall show, and we'll speak to our buddy, our weekly segment, Keith Martin. We'll be back in just a couple minutes.
The Classic Auto Mall has more than 1,000 vehicles for consignment in our huge 8-acre climate-controlled showroom. It's a real indoor mall. If you'd like to know all the advantages of buying and selling a car through consignment, the information is available on our website, or you can talk to a classic car specialist who can answer all your questions. It's easy, safe, convenient, and it doesn't matter where you are. We sell worldwide. See our huge selection of classic and collectible vehicles at classicautomall.com.
Joining us for segment number whatever we're 16. On today, 16, is our friend Keith Martin, publisher of Sports Car Market Magazine. Good morning, evening, afternoon, Keith.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. We missed you last week. Of course, 4th of July, everybody had things going on, and we thought we'd give everybody a much-needed break from our jibber-jabbering.
Well, the big controversy now over 4th of July? The big controversy is fireworks versus drones.
Yeah, it's crazy. And of course, the argument is that people that have pets apparently hate fireworks because they make their pets go crazy. And we never knew about that growing up as kids. I don't know if our dogs were just tougher or if it's a different world or what it is, but apparently these drones don't make quite the noise that the traditional fireworks do.
Right. Right. Well, also, there's always a few people that blow themselves up every year.
Right. There's a new thing there where they get a canister of gasoline, apparently, and then make a fireball, and that's, ooh, it's the oohs and the ahs, right? So once a week, or every week, we bring to life Keith's blog that he writes for Sports Car Market Magazine, the greatest magazine on the planet. And you're welcome. And this week's title to the blog is Enter the Long Roof Wagon. So I'm kind of assume that there's a Volvo wagon that's come into play into your life somehow, some way.
Well, I had one comment on the blog from a man who said, is long roof Swedish for station wagon?
I think that's correct, yes. But it's spelled different. It's LUNGRUF.
Right. The point of my blog was that my son's he's 18, this is his third car.
Right.
But the first 2 cars, of a C3 Corvette and a Land Rover Disco, were really my fantasies for what he should be driving.
I know that feeling.
And he really finally said to me, Dad, I don't really like these cars very much. And he said, I really like Volvo wagons. And so it turned out that my editor-in-chief, Jeff Sabatini, had a 98 V70 T5. I'm still learning all
the nomenclature.
but he had one for sale that was nice and was reasonably priced. And for my son, who's Gen Z, that is like the car to have.
Isn't that crazy? I love that, but it's crazy.
It's crazy, but he said, I feel good when I get behind the wheel. My friends all love it. It's safe enough. And with all the crazy cars I bought in my life, who am I to do anything but support somebody when they've got a passion for something?
Absolutely. My dad did the same thing. He bought an Audi 100 LS for me when I was 16, my first car, because he thought it looked like a Mercedes and he thought it was cool. And he didn't think about what I thought, which was like, oh my God, what is that?
Yeah. No, I understand.
So the Volvo wagon is it's practical. It's interesting. It's cool looking for those of us who know a little bit about them. What do you think the Gen Z's attraction to them? All of those things, or is there something we're missing?
I don't know. You know, and I was talking to Jeff Sabatini yesterday about the Volvo itself. You know, until very recently, it really had a standalone look and feel to it.
Right.
Volvo maintained its characteristics, while Saabs and other cars kind of all lost them all.
Sure. Because the Saab was the most unique-looking car growing up when I was a kid. At least that was around where we lived. That would be you knew one immediately when you saw it. There was no mistaking a Saab or a Volvo at the time. And of course, you know, as things change, they get not always better.
No, that's correct. And then we're we're in an era now where cars they become so complicated, Stewart. I mean, it's my problem with this Volvo is that it was cheap to buy, but will it be cheap to keep?
Yeah, is it Mercedes, Jaguar, Land Rover, Range Rover, Aston Martin expensive to maintain, or is it more along the lines of a Fiat or something where you might be able to find some parts and it won't be too crazy? I have a feeling, though, it's not going to be the case and it's going to be expensive.
We are lucky here in Portland. We have a place called IPD, which is a Volvo parts center and service specialist. So
Wow.
They have remanufactured a lot. I was just watching a YouTube video last night, the 10 things most likely to fail on your Volvo wagon.
Your favorite new video, right?
Right. And they have each part, they say, this fails and this is what we built to replace it with.
You know, and a lot of times on these remanufactured parts is that they're better than the original. They've learned where the failure points were, and therefore they can build a better mousetrap.
Well, what I always think about is like if you went to the Volvo factory in 1998 and you said, okay, 50 years from now, what do you think is going to be most likely to fail on this car? And they'd look at you and they would just laugh.
Yeah, they'd say the whole thing's going to be gone. It's going to be in a trash can or a dumpster.
Yeah, I mean, because they don't think 50 years.
Sure. Well, I mean, I think the success of a lot of the German cars was that they may not have thought 50 years ahead, but they were thinking further ahead than General Motors, Ford, and Chrysler were back in the day. I agree. You know, and without question.
So the question I have in that case, then, why with Alfa Romeo does every single Alfa Romeo convertible dash split within 6 months?
Well,
how can a Mercedes have a dash with no cracks in it, and an Alfa, you turn your back on the car and the dash cracks?
Yeah, it's like it's supposed to do it. It's as if they put a wedge in there and just got it just enough in there so it was just slowly over time coming apart. And
maybe what Alfa was doing was reflecting the tectonic shift on the Earth, where all the continents are moving apart. And the Alfa wanted to be like right there with the planet.
Yeah, because maybe they thought you could make two cars out of one. You know, just split it right down the middle, and there you have it. So I think that you never know what the Italians are thinking. That's always the yin and the yang of the Italian car, is that some things defy logic, and it's like, you know, when the Corvettes, like the C3, I think it was a C3 or something. Yeah, C3 that he had. Where's the battery? In the most inopportune place. It's behind the driver's seat, and you can't hardly get to it, and you can't get jumper cables to it. Right. Dodge Viper, the battery, you practically have to take the fender off to get to it. I mean, people just don't think these things through.
Well, it makes you want to send designers to engineer school. And so they say, okay, how do we design this to make it easy to service?
Right. I think that was part of the problem, though, is that the designers would come up with, and the engineers would say, no, we can't afford to do that. We can do it this way, and that's a compromise, and we'll just take the compromise and move on, and not really thinking it through. I mean, there's so many designs. We just got a new pickup truck, and you know, every car nowadays, or every car that you're in, there's a air vent where you put your magnetic phone holder, and it clips into the vent. And Kathy, my wife, very first day we bought the truck, she puts this thing in, and the vent thing breaks, the little slat in the vent, and it's like, God, you know, how do you explain that one to the dealership when you take it back and, you know, act like you're not just a complete loser when you broke the vent on the air conditioning?
Yeah, I bet it's not the first one.
and then the other thing you got to argue is that why wouldn't they have thought that through? That people are going to put one of those things on the vent, make it work, make it so it's sturdy enough that it'll handle that. And they don't think things through. Hopefully they will. And they put these chargers in these cars now in the center console, where you lay your phone in there and it just magically charges, and that never works, and it's in a very inopportune place. So
it's in the place where your coffee spills.
Right? Yeah, exactly. A perfect spot to. Well, it's just like everything. Every 2 years when the new iPhone comes out, mine starts acting wonky for some particular reason. Right at the moment they announce the new iPhone 29 or whatever they're at.
Well, and I never really understand the iPhone. When you go to the AT&T store, it's one price, and when you go to the other store, it's and we'll add this to your bill, and we'll subtract this from your mortgage, and it all. I know I'm getting screwed, but I can't quite figure out how.
I can't put my finger on it. I'll never forget the first cell phone I got. It was installed in my Honda CRX, and the first bill that came in was $790. And there was no important phone calls that were made on it. It was all calling my buddies, telling them where I was calling them from. By the way, guess where I am? Or you remember the old days? They even had fake cell phone handsets where you could pretend like you had a phone in your car.
You know what that's like? That's like when you get blow up people so you can drive in the carpool lane.
Yeah, I think that's a brilliant idea. It's amazing what status symbols. Where we were talking earlier about, when you always figured when you made it, you'd buy your wife a 450 SL Mercedes. That would show everybody in the neighborhood that you made it. Right? Yeah. That was the status symbol of all status symbols.
I find those. I think those are wonderful cars, but they're unbelievably boring.
Yeah, I get it. They don't. There's not a lot of excitement to them. They're not slow, but they're not fast. They don't.
No, and they've been around long enough now. They look dated. They look like you gave it to your secretary as a retirement present.
Right. Yeah, instead of a gold watch, right, or whatever else. I don't know what they give anymore, right? So, well, it was always wonderful to talk to you. I hope that you have a great week. We'll try not to miss another show like we did. No more holidays for a while. And actually, I'm going to be in Monterey. We may have to miss that one. So, unless I'm going to get bold and try to do one remotely, which I don't know. I'm not that good at this.
I'm going to go out and drive my son's wagon.
Yeah, enjoy that. And for those of you watching and listening, check out this segment or this commercial about a special offer from Keith Martin in Sports Car Market Magazine. We'll catch you next week on the Classic Auto Mall Show. We'll see you then.
Here's a special offer from Sports Car Market Magazine. Get a 6-month subscription for just $19.95 by going to sportscarmarket.com/test drive and the number 6. That's sportscarmarket.com/test drive 6. If you're a buyer, a seller, or just general classic car enthusiast, publisher Keith Martin says,
we've been around almost 40 years. It's the Wall Street Journal of the collector car world.
Activate your 6-month trial of Sports Car Market Magazine by going to sportscarmarket.com/test drive 6. Offers for a limited time. Be in the know with Sports Car Market. The Classic Auto Mall Show with their host, Stewart Howden, executive producer, Steve Sethier, produced and engineered by yours truly, J.R. Russ, video editor, Randy Lammy. Available on ClassicAutomall.com, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Music courtesy of the Pat Travers Band. For tour dates, contact, and stuff, visit PatTravers.com. Produced by Car Smarts Media. Copyright all rights reserved.